So in the span of 24 to 48 hours, Kellen Moore goes from winning a Super Bowl ring to possibly earning his first NFL head coaching job. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. Being a longtime Saints fan, I've had the rug pulled out from under me before. I'm still got this in the 99.99% chance that the deal is done and Kellen Moore is the next head coach. Everything was breaking over the weekend. We know that, yeah, it's a done deal. Yeah, it's a done deal. They talked about it in the broadcast last night. I was still nervous and I'm still not 100%, but I started feeling a whole lot better when last night I saw this tweet from Jory Epstein, who's a Yahoo sports writer. Basically, she talked to Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, and she asked him point blank, "Do you expect to lose Kellen Moore?" And he basically said, "I do." That he's going to New Orleans, and added a little sentence at the end of it that kind of makes you also feel good when the owner holds him in, pretty high respect, saying, "Look, very smart coach who was able to adapt our offense week to week as needed to win games." Music to my ears that, and we're going to talk about it a little more in a minute, but there's some flexibility coming in here because he showed it in the Super Bowl, I thought, last night, and he's going to need it if he's taking this job for what's ahead of him. Overall, his performance, I mean, look, they just figuratively and literally ran over the Chiefs last night. Um, Everybody kind of thought going into the game, a lot of the analysis was like, yeah, if they can run the ball, they've got a chance. And to be fair, the game plan I thought was pretty basic. It's a lot of what Philly's been doing down the stretch when they went from the point where everybody was ready to fire Sirianni to man, we've got a really good team here. And part of that was, and they mentioned in the broadcast, Kellen Moore basically coming in with the game plan that he ran again last night, which heavy run and extremely efficient passing. And barring one play where it's some pressure up the middle and a throw that, let's just say it didn't work out. I don't want to ding anybody after watching that performance last night on the offensive line or the quarterback for Philly, but it just didn't work out. Throws a pick. Other than that play, you had a really near perfect offensive showing, I thought, for most of four quarters. 3 plus a little bit. It was kind of like garbage time cruise control for Philly towards the end of the game, but we all saw what we saw, right? He didn't get off his game plan, but it seemed to me there was a tweak and adjustment because they were feeding the ball to Saquon Barkley early, as they should have. And he wasn't really getting anywhere. At one point, he was like 10 carries, 20 yards. They made a little adjustment. Hurts started running a little more, both in scrambles and a few design runs, really got things going. Barkley kind of picked up the slack later. They found the way to get Barkley the ball as an extension of the running game, the short passing game. I believe he finished with 40 plus yards receiving. All that just factored into, while the game plan really didn't change, the adjustments of how he was going to do it, what Lori alluded to in that comment, kind of showed itself a little bit. They had to do it that way. I think everybody felt, and I think it kind of bore itself out because they had to control down and distance and not let Spagnuolo unleash all that pressure stuff he was doing with the Chiefs all year. And very importantly, control the game clock, which they did from the jump. And it was a great complimentary game plan. And this is one of the things that I'm a little excited to see coming out of that game, hoping this is the kind of thing he's bringing to New Orleans. I don't think we did over the last few years. There were times we did, but not enough, where we were trying to complement our game plan with both sides of the ball in an effort to win a game. Well, they look Moore and Vic Fangio did it magnificently last night because that what they were doing on offense with Moore, and Philly got the ball first. Plain and simple, keep Mahomes and that KC offense off the field and keep putting up points while you're doing it. And like I said, they had the one blemish on the interception, but other than that, that's what they did. And that allowed the Philly defense to do what it does best. And if you were in the dome or watching week 3 when we ran up against them, when they can just do what they want to do with their front four and everybody else is back here, whether they're going to play man, combo, zone, anything of the above, that's a tough defense to deal with. And as we saw, they have playmakers on that defense at every level of the ball, and they all showed up last night and made plays. And it's easier to do when you have the best quarterback in football not able to get on the field. And when he does, the offense just isn't any type of rhythm. No chance to even really establish a running game. They did briefly in the second half, but it didn't last long because Philly in the offense, they didn't go into cruise control and try to sit on a lead. They were still trying to run up that score because they knew got to keep the pressure on them. Overall, that philosophy that Sirianni had his coordinators doing, he's the head coach. I'm gonna give him credit, but let's give credit. Like I said, Moore and Fangio did a great job. Also, both of them did a great job play calling. The kind of coaching and attitude I think we need badly in New Orleans. Really hope he's bringing it with him because I think that Super Bowl performance last night, one game. Now, I think many of us have watched Philly over the last few weeks of playoffs and the stretch run. And again, a lot of us were watching them week 3. Realize it's a good football team. And part of you wants to say, well, anybody can win with a good football team. Well, on the biggest stage, to have everybody in your team show up and play a great game says a lot. And not just putting this on Kellen Moore, but it says a lot throughout the organization. That's the kind of thing my expectation, and it has to be, I'm sorry, my expectation, he can draw from that and bring that, pull that into New Orleans when he shows up as a coach. Because roster building is going to be a priority. When you talk about what's coming next for the Saints, well, that's the next thing. And it encompasses a lot of stuff. Some of it's going to be heavily front office when you talk about the salary cap and drafting, but getting a head coach and a more important, well, not more importantly, but very importantly, the staff under him to get back to that system of where coaches and front office are bringing in the right players, developing those players, and keeping those players. And all 3 of those things have been stuff we've, as an organization, have struggled with. But while he's doing that, he's going to have to continue, again, kind of a flexible scheme, play calling. So will whoever he hires as defensive coordinator. Just a little while ago, I was reading in the comments somebody bringing up how important the defensive coordinating hire is going to be, and I couldn't agree more because we don't know how much the roster is going to change in 1 year, much less 2. We know it's coming. It may take a little while to build the roster the way the new coaching staff wants it, as opposed to what we really have. But I think what you want to avoid is a situation where you're tearing it all the way down and rebuilding it from the studs up. And this has been commented on a lot during the week because while some NFL teams have been able to do it, a lot of them never recover, and some of them are still trying to recover from that experience. Knowing what we saw Philly do most of this year, and especially last night, if you can look at your players in the scheme you want to try to run and be able to find a way to mesh it together and get it to work, you have a chance of, instead of doing a complete tear down rebuild, more of a work in progress, trying to get the train back on the tracks. I don't know quite how to discern it, but a remodel, maybe, if you want to go that route in the construction route. But structurally, the whole thing does need some work. But we know there's some pieces in place that they can use. There's some veterans in place that while their ability to keep playing over the next few years is questionable at best, in some cases you might be able to get one more year out of them, and you might want to get that one more year out of them because a large part of this for this year in 2025 is going to be through the draft. Having a few veterans around may not be a bad idea for just a little bit while you're bringing in new rookies and you're trying to figure out of the rookie deals, those guys right now that haven't gotten their second contracts, do a better job of keeping the right ones in the building and moving on from the ones that now we need to replace them. It's a tall ask. You're going to need the right head coach, and he's going to have to bring in the right people under him, kind of be able to handle that. So you're not looking at, we were 5-12 and not seeing 2 or 3 more seasons where we're still picking in the top 10 because we're struggling to win games. Expectations are going to be high. There's no doubt as I'm laying them out. I understand that. But at the same time, I don't think anybody really wants to sit around and wait 5-6 years to see if we can get this turned around, especially as many examples as they are of teams that try to rebuild it from the studs up, as they say, from all the way down, literally to the foundation, and failed. There's been some that have rebuilt most of it, but not the whole thing. We're able to find a core of players that they started building around, but more importantly, they were adding the correct players in until instead of a 3 or 4 year rebuild, you know, you kind of a 1 year, it's going to be tough. But in that second year, you can realistically start looking and going, hey, we have a window to the playoffs starting to approach. And when it gets here, we got to be able to open that thing and get through it and make a run. My expectation is if we could just see that window by 2026, think of the recent examples the last couple of years of Houston and Detroit. By that second year, getting into that third year, going, hey, we're consistently back in the playoff hunt and actually making it. Let's see if we can progress further and try to make that run. You may not be able to do it, but when you compare that thinking that by 2027, realistically, hey, we're back where we want to be with a legitimate deep run window, playoff, dare we say Super Bowl by then? I don't know if you can, but it'd be freaking awesome if we could. But what you don't want is the doldrums of the last 4 years where you're just praying at the end of the season to try to scratch your way into a wild card game that you're going to have a hell of a hard time winning. I'm not telling you he's going to win a Super Bowl. I don't even know if he can give us a winning season, but compared to what we were dealing with the last few years, he should exceed our expectations from that. And if he can exceed our expectations from that, there's hope. There's a chance that you finally are going to get back to the right combination of players, coaching, and front office all being in sync, helping you move forward, win football games, be successful again, and give us another shot at deep playoff run and that Super Bowl window we're all looking for. And for today, just a quick recap of last night. Seems to be, hopefully, this is Monday morning. By sometime Tuesday, we're having the press conference. And then sometimes after that, we're live stream where I'm sure this topic of conversation, I mean, I kind of gave you what the 12-minute abridged version of it, but it goes a lot deeper. And when you're saying what's next for the Saints, you can summarize it like I did in a few sentences, but it's a whole lot more than that. And it's going to be a lot of work. Moore gets the job. He better show up with his hard hat on and ready to do some work. And whoever he hires and brings in, same thing. It's as they say, it's going to take a village, I guess. It's going to be a group effort. But it can be done, and it doesn't have to take forever as long as it's done correctly. Hopefully, we get everybody on the same page. We get it done the right way. Get her done. So I honestly don't know when the live stream is going to be, like I said, but we'll just expect when the announcement comes and probably an inevitable press conference, which I'm assuming will be no sooner than Tuesday, but you never know. Sometime after that, just check back in and make sure you got your notifications hit. While I'm at it, like, share, subscribe. First time here, please give the channel a thumbs up at least. But we'll put all that together. We'll sit down. We'll talk about it a little more. And what I'm really hoping is when that is official, we can start getting into the conversation of who's who the assistants are that are coming, or if any that's still left in the Saints building are staying. Hopefully, by the time that press conference comes, he can give us some indication about that, because he could be the greatest head coach in the world. And if he hires a crappy staff, we're going to not get along as fast as we need to get along in this process. And I would feel better if we've talked about one or two names that would come from him in Philly and might go, whew, yeah, that would be a coup. Hopefully they show up. And then I don't know about too much on the Philly defensive side. I doubt if he can get Fangio here, but there may be an assistant or two over there that he can bring over that, like we're saying, what he's going to try to do on the offensive side to build around. And maybe a young defensive line over there that comes with, and we go, wow, glad we got him. But we'll see. So whenever the live stream happens after we make it official, that's what I'm going to see you next time. But until then, I'm Tim. Peace out and who dat.